So, back in February 2026, a conflict that had been simmering for years finally boiled over into open war. But, this didn't just happen overnight. It was really the end of a long road, a path that was chosen years before when diplomacy was traded for confrontation. In this breakdown, we're going to walk through the critical moments that led us here.
So right as the attacks were kicking off, then-President Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social, spelling out exactly why they were doing it. The goals were stated very clearly: stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon and take out what they called imminent threats from the regime. And that really sets the stage for what became known as Operation Epic Fury. And wow, the impact was immediate and huge. Right out of the gate, those first strikes hit a massive target. They killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. This single event just threw the whole future of the Islamic Republic into chaos and dramatically raised the stakes. But here's the thing, that attack, it wasn't the start of the story, not even close. To really get what happened, we need to go back.
All right, so if we're looking for where this all really began, the sources we've analyzed all point back to one critical moment, almost a decade earlier. Yeah, 2018. That's the year a whole diplomatic framework was just taken apart. And that set off this chain of events that, honestly, felt kind of inevitable. This deal, it wasn't something thrown together over a weekend. Just look at this timeline. The 2015 nuclear deal, the JCPOA, was the result of more than a decade of really tough diplomacy and a whole lot of economic pressure, right? It was this massive international effort to find a way forward without going to war. So what was the JCPOA exactly? What was this deal all about? Well, at its heart, it was a pretty straightforward trade-off, a kind of grand bargain between Iran and the world's major powers. Iran agreed to put some serious, verifiable limits on its nuclear program, and in exchange, those crippling international sanctions that had been crushing its economy would be lifted. And let's be clear, these were not small concessions. What's wild is just how deep these cuts went. Iran had to get rid of almost all of its enriched uranium, 98%. They had to take apart 2/3 of their operating centrifuges. And the big one, they had to let international inspectors from the IAEA have extensive access to make sure they were sticking to the deal. Okay, and this slide, this really shows you the fork in the road. In 2018, the US pulled out of the JCPOA, and overnight, the strategy just completely flips. They replaced this big multilateral diplomatic approach with a unilateral campaign they called maximum pressure. So the goal wasn't to manage the nuclear program anymore. The new goal was to squeeze Iran so hard they'd be forced into a brand new, even tougher deal. This didn't just change the tactics, it completely changed the results. Instead of sanctions relief and compliance, you got an economic crisis and non-compliance.
So what were the consequences of this maximum pressure policy? Well, ditching the deal basically lit a fuse. It started a chain reaction, and every link in that chain brought the region closer and closer to a full-blown war.
The first thing that happened, the economic hit, and it was devastating. These sanctions, they didn't just sting, they set off the worst economic crisis Iran had seen in 40 years. It absolutely strangled the country's economy and its people.
But here's the thing. The whole point was to force Iran back to the table, right? Well, it kind of did the opposite. It backfired, big time. Their oil exports, the lifeblood of their economy, were cut by more than half. And inside Iran, all this economic pain, it completely discredited the moderates who had pushed for the deal. Instead, it empowered the hardliners, the guys who had been saying all along, see, you can't trust the West. So what did Iran do? They started openly breaking the rules of the JCPOA, firing up the very nuclear program the deal was designed to freeze.
Okay, so with diplomacy basically dead in the water and its economy getting crushed, Iran started leaning heavily on another one of its tools, its network of proxy forces across the region. And that's when the conflict started to, metastasize. It began spreading all over the Middle East.
And the main group running this whole proxy strategy is the Quds Force. Think of them as the elite international arm of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. Their whole job is to arm, train, and support this network of allied militant groups. It's what some people call Iran's forward defense, a way to project power and hit back at their enemies without starting a direct war.
And the size of this network, it's just staggering. According to US government estimates, we're talking about somewhere between 140,000 and 185,000 fighters in these partner groups all across the region. That is a huge non-state army. And if you look at a map, this network is everywhere.
You've got Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is basically its own army. You've got Hamas in Gaza, the Houthi rebels in Yemen, plus all these different Shiite militias in Syria and Iraq. This whole axis of resistance gave Iran a way to poke and prod its enemies indirectly. It let them raise the temperature across the region without, triggering a direct war between countries. Well, at least for a while.
And that brings us right back to the war itself. After years of these proxy fights and just building tension, the whole thing finally spiraled completely out of control. So let's take a look at the final steps on that path to open war, and maybe see what lessons we can learn from this whole mess.
Those last 2 years, from 2024 to 2026, things just accelerated, fast, and it got really dangerous. What used to be this kind of shadow war exploded into the open in April 2024, with Israel and Iran trading direct blows. Then, by October, Iran launched this massive barrage of 180 ballistic missiles at Israel. Wow. There was another short but super intense direct conflict around mid-2025, and you could just feel how close everything was to the edge. So when one last desperate attempt at diplomacy fell apart, well, the path was set, and it led straight to Operation Epic Fury in February 2026.
And the result of that operation as well is the situation we have today. The Iranian regime is, for all intents and purposes, decapitated. Its supreme leader is gone, its command structure is a mess. But here's the crucial part: this has not created stability, not at all. What it's created is a giant power vacuum and a situation across the entire Middle East that is just incredibly unpredictable and dangerous.
So, with the regime weaker than it's been since the revolution in '79, the big question is, what happens now? I mean, who's going to fill that power vacuum? And is it even possible to stop this from becoming an even bigger regional war?
When you look back at this whole timeline, it's like a really sobering policy briefing. Lesson number 1, unilateral pressure doesn't always work. In fact, it can backfire and just empower the hardliners you are trying to weaken. Second, when you close the door on diplomacy, you often leave military action as the only door left open. Third, that line between a proxy war and a direct war, it is razor thin, and it's so easy to cross. And finally, taking out the leader of a regime might weaken it, sure, but it's no guarantee that what comes next will be stable or any better.
And that really leaves us with the one big question, doesn't it? This whole disaster started when a diplomatic deal, a deal designed specifically to prevent a nuclear crisis, fell apart. So, looking at this whole tragic road to war, the challenge for the future seems pretty clear, right? Can diplomacy actually be rebuilt, and can it be trusted to stop the next crisis? All right, that's our breakdown of the long road to this conflict. For the most up-to-date summaries, make sure you're subscribed to our channel, The Global Conflict Brief. Thanks for watching.